Hello and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines this hour. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is set to meet with US President Donald Trump in Florida's Mar-a-Lago. Key topic of discussion will be Zelensky's 20-point proposal for peace between Russia and Ukraine. Italian police bust Hamas financing ring, 9 arrested over accusation of raising €6 million for Hamas over 2 years. Russian President Vladimir Putin warns of force if Ukraine rejects peace talks ahead of Trump-Zelensky meet. Putin says Kyiv lacks interest in peaceful conflict resolution. Switzerland's army chief says it can't defend itself from full-scale attack and must boost military spending amid risk from Putin's Russia. FBI Director Kash Patel says its historic Washington headquarters will be shut down permanently. Personnel moved to building earlier occupied by US aid. The first phase of voting has begun in some 103 townships of Myanmar as the junta calls for a strictly regulated vote. Critics maintain that this is just a way of legitimizing junta rule. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un attended a meeting to mark the anniversary of the promulgation of its socialist constitution half a century ago, according to Pyongyang state media. Voters in the Central African Republic head to the polls in a presidential election that is widely expected to return President Faustin Archange to power for a third term despite persistent security risks and opposition accusations of democratic backsliding. Alright viewers, let's start with the top focus here at the World Report. Now, European leaders have reaffirmed their unwavering support for Ukraine ahead of President Volodymyr Zelensky's upcoming talks with US President Donald Trump. EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen and President of the European Council Antonio Costa emphasized that any peace in Ukraine must preserve the country's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Von der Leyen said the European Union will maintain pressure on Moscow and continue assisting Ukraine on its path towards European Union membership in 2026. Meanwhile, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz added that Zelensky will get full support of European leaders and Canada, stressing close coordination with the US to secure a just and lasting peace. On the other hand, French President Emmanuel Macron condemned Russia's recent drone and missile strikes on Kyiv, saying the attacks demonstrate Moscow's intent to prolong the conflict, contrasting Ukraine's willingness to pursue peace. European Union leaders reaffirmed their commitment to Ukraine's security and sovereignty, pledging continued political, financial and military support to help the country withstand Russian aggression and achieve a sustainable resolution. Alright viewers, key developments coming in as far as the peace dialogue between Russia and Ukraine is concerned. Zelensky is now set to meet with US President Donald Trump and his negotiating team over the 20-point draft peace plan. This meeting will be held in Florida's Mar-a-Lago and key topics will be the peace proposal that includes 20 points for peace between Russia and Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin has signaled that Zelensky is not looking for a peaceful resolution to the war and has in fact gone on to warn the country of force if it does not accept the full terms of Russia's demands. And joining me in this discussion now is a retired Major General Dr. Rajan Kochar. Thank you very much, Dr. Kochar, for joining me here at NewsX World this morning. Dr. Kochar, of course, very key negotiations today. Zelensky finally headed to meet with Trump once again in Mar-a-Lago. What do you think is going to be the likely outcome of this meeting?
Good morning to you. See what is happening now as far as the peace accord is concerned and a ceasefire is concerned. A bit of the background is required for a better understanding. First, we had a
Yes, sir.
28 point peace plan, and then we subsequently the European Union had certain observations, and it was pruned down to a 20-point peace plan. But the most important is who are the two stakeholders, Russia and Ukraine. They both have to come on board. So these peace plans we keep on making
Yeah.
without understanding that these two countries have to come on board. Russia and I've been following Putin's statement. Putin is in favor of a negotiation, in favor of a discussion, and he was more or less inclined to the 28-point peace plan of Donald Trump.
Hmm.
Donald Trump was hopeful that Zelensky would come on board, and there were indications because Steve Witkoff and other people were actually meeting the Ukrainian officials, including Zelensky. So there was much hope. But what is happening is that you would be aware that elections in Ukraine uh, are to be held as per directions of Trump within a period of 6 months. And Zelensky and his party actually fear that in case they give too many concessions to the Russians in terms of land, because the basic sticking point right now is not the security guarantees or anything like this. It is conceding and recognizing the land which has been captured or the territory which has been captured by the Russians, uh, and giving it acceptance, and that amounts to loss of sovereignty. So sovereignty has become a big issue now, and the European Union is trying to uh, gain on that, or trying to cash on that. So I think the most prudent you would be, because Donald Trump may not provide that kind of military assistance to Ukraine that it was providing earlier in case Ukraine does not come online.
Hmm.
European Union has no leverages as far as Zelensky is concerned, because European Union is not in a position to militarily support Ukraine in case they want Ukraine to keep on fighting and not accepting the peace terms. So I think Zelensky would be making a mistake now, because he's already made a mistake by listening to the US and the European Union by getting into this war. But
Yeah.
now, if he has to get out of this war, I think he'll be making a big mistake in case he succumbs to the pressure or to the assurances being given by the European Union, because European Union is not going to fight his war.
But
The
they haven't
people,
even given any assurances per se, Dr. Kocher. The only support that has come is in the form of a loan. And when Zelensky is fighting a war, how can the European Union nations expect him to repay that loan?
yeah, so that is an important point, because you are running out of your own economic resources. You cannot fight this war on your own steam. So, without the support of Trump, I think it's not going to happen.
Hmm.
And Trump is not inclined to accept any of the Zelensky's terms to
Right.
prolong this war.
Hmm.
He wants Zelensky to come on the table.
Hmm.
And Zelensky is trying to ensure that politically he remains correct as far as his country is concerned, because conceding any amount of territory would be so moto, I would say, that finishes off Zelensky as far as his leadership in Ukraine is concerned. So I think it's more of a political decision of Zelensky rather than a military decision, because if you have to take this decision purely on military terms, purely on terms of sufferings of the people, and and especially an important point here is that Ukraine army is no longer in a position to give a pitched fight to the Russians.
Hmm.
As we have seen now, Russia is taking advantage of the present predicament of Zelensky, and Russian forces are penetrating ahead. Every day we are hearing that Kharkiv, some kilometers deep, they have actually gone into Sumy. Also, the offensive is on. They are targeting Odessa also, and they are targeting all the energy resources of Ukraine because it's winter time now, and they know that how difficult it will be for the people if they don't get their power and electricity and water. So I think from Putin's point of view, he is trying to put maximum pressure by intensification of his offensive uh, actions on Ukraine, because he is going to increase the tempo of his operation as time goes by, and he will try to create a situation for Zelensky to come on the table and accept the ceasefire, because I think that's the strategy of the Russians. And a possibility of this strategy from Putin's point of view, this is his best opportunity to consolidate his gains, to consolidate his position before they come on the table. Because once you come on the table, then it becomes difficult to progress a campaign in the same tempo as Putin is doing now. So that is relevant to understand here for the viewers also, that Putin is sensing a window of opportunity as of now to go a full hog. And I may not, and if Zelensky is going to delay this thing, I could suggest to a great extent that Kyiv is going to be targeted in a very, very big way from Belarus side also, because they have tried to do it earlier. They could not succeed that point of time. There is a strong possibility, and the way Putin and his Russian forces and Belarus are getting together, there may be a strong possibility that from the Belarus side, because that is the closest to Kyiv, and it's easier to strike from that point. So I think these are larger issues which Zelensky needs to understand, because moment Kyiv comes under a great attack, it can be in terms of a missile, it can be in terms of drones, and then the ground forces come in and seize important command and control centers like a nodal point. If you capture the routes of entry and access, entry and exit, then you kind of strangulate a place. So the strangulation method of attack is very much on, and I think in due credence to this entire conversation, that Zelensky needs to understand this. He needs to understand his own position. He needs to understand the strength of his own forces, and he needs what his people want, because right now I think the Ukrainians want an end to this war.
Sure. Thank you very much, Dr. Kocher, for joining me in this discussion. And with that, we are going to proceed. Now, Hamas is expected to elect a new leader within days or weeks now, as per a report by Saudi outlet Shark, which has cited sources close to the group's leadership. The sources say that general elections were delayed by the Gaza war, but are now moving ahead, though no broader internal vote will be held until the conflict fully ends. The leading contenders are former Hamas chief Khaled Mashaal and Gaza Politburo head Khalil al-Hayya. Their key differences center on Gaza and regional alliances. Al-Hayya is seen as close to Iran, supports continuing armed conflict until Israel fully withdraws from the territory. Mashaal, viewed as closer to Qatar, favors negotiated compromises and shifting Hamas towards more moderate Arab states. Sources say al-Hayya is likely to win, backed by leaders in Gaza and the West Bank. The vote will be held by Hamas's General Shura Council, ending a period of provisional leadership following the killing of senior Hamas figures by Israel. I now request retired Major General Sudhakar Ji, who is a senior geopolitical and defense strategic expert, to join me in this discussion. Thank you very much, General Sudhakar, for joining me in this discussion, and a very good morning to you. So So Dhakarji, Hamas is rebuilding itself. So it now appears that it is not deterred by any of the, Israeli aggression so far, and all the attempts to de-escalate the conflict have not fructified.
Yeah, Kriti, good morning. Good morning, and interesting question. People need to understand that when you talk about Hamas, don't lose sight of the fact that it is a political outfit. We tend to, ignore the status of this outfit and call it as a militant outfit. Militant outfit is different. It has got a different name, different organization. Hamas is a political outfit. Therefore, Hamas have till date they have not been brought under the heading of terrorist by the United Nations. It's only a couple of Western countries and US they brand Hamas as a terrorist organization. And so much so, let me also clarify, not from 7th October 2023, since 2007 till date, Hamas as a political outfit have been governing both Gaza as also West Bank. They have two different establishments. One is the Palestinian dominated outfit in the West Bank, and the Hamas is towards the Gaza Strip. So keep this in the back of the mind. Now I'm coming to respond to your question. Is disarmament or disarming Hamas anywhere related to the elections? The answer could be yes for some and no for some. So when I say this, I am saying this as a neutral person. To me, my take on the whole issue is that it should not be mixed up, because two of the preceding leaders, the audience will do well to understand that Hamas go through a process of election once in 4 years, and in preceding 1 year itself, preceding 1.5 years, or post 7th October 2023, the two of their leaders, one is who was killed in Tehran, and followed by Sinwar, who was killed in one of the military operations in Gaza.
Yeah.
Two of the leaders, successive leaders, have been killed in past 1.5 years or so.
Yeah.
Although the election was due, the last election was held in 2021, and this year's election was supposed to have been held in the early part of 2025, but because of the ongoing situations, peace proposals, attack, counter-attack, retribution, etc., they haven't had time to consolidate and go in for a political process. So what is it that I'm trying to indicate? I'm trying to indicate, in absence of any of the political leaders, the Shura Council, which has got about 50 members, it was being governed by a nucleus team. And that nucleus team was temporarily looking after or discharging the duties or mandate on behalf of a politically elected leader, which is not considered as part of a democratic norm. So therefore they have to go in for the elections. And for this election, you have mentioned two names. One is Mashaal, the other is, what's his name? Yahya. Two of these gentlemen. And Mashaal is pro-Qatar, and he believes in diplomacy and dialogue. Basic aim of Mashaal is to win away the Hamas from the flank of Iran and put them onto a path of peace and prosperity. This is one part. The other part, the other gentleman, Yahya, who's got a huge popularity, he's likely to win. That's last line. And this guy, he's a pro-Iran candidate, and he believes in contesting by military might and giving a military fight to the Israelis, making sure that Israelis withdraw from Gaza. That's all I have to say. Back to you, Kriti.
All right. Sure. Thanks for that, Sudhakarji. Do continue to stay on with us. Viewers, moving ahead, let's also tell you that Israeli forces have imposed a lockdown on Qabatia in the occupied West Bank, continuing their military operation into its second day. The crackdown follows an attack by a local resident who killed 2 people in Israel, leading to mass arrests and forced evacuations from homes. The Israeli military sealed off the town, converted several homes into interrogation centers, and conducted widespread searches. Meanwhile, Defense Minister Israel Katz ordered the operation to target terror hubs in Qabatia while calling for a forceful approach to combat Palestinian attacks. This move is part of a broader military strategy that has led to over 21,000 Palestinian arrests since October 2023, with escalating violence in West Bank. I now request General Sudhakar to join me back in the discussion here. Sudhakar ji, what kind of a reaction can we expect from Hamas for following this sealing of the villages by Israel?
Kriti, my take on the whole issue is that the kind of moves which are going on now, forcible shifting of Palestinians to places like Somaliland, to South Africa, to elsewhere, one. Secondly, West Bank is not supposed to be, West Bank is supposed to be vacated as per the 1967 agreement, but West Bank is being subjected to forced occupation by Israelis. Yesterday or day before yesterday, we heard something that the settlements, the new settlement, 19th new settlement is been subjected to approval or something by the European Union, some countries from Europe and USA. So such like things. And now here is something like a girl has been stabbed by a person. Such like thing. West Bank, you are intruding into a domain which time and again the international bodies, apex organizations, and Hamas and Palestinians and Israelis have agreed and come to a common platform that it is supposed to be vacated. So gradual incremental process of strangulating these people in a land which is supposed to have been vacated is definitely going to antagonize more than the nation or the entity of a statehood are the people who are being subjected to inconvenience. A person where the blockade has been established, like you said, the Israeli military intelligence ship, then when they came into effect, you see, they cordon off, they gather the intelligence, they cordon off the entire area where they are expecting the terrorist hub is to be located, and thereafter, after cordoning off, they seek out draw the fire of the enemy or the Hamas or the Palestinians, and after having drawn the fire, they demolish the house. Okay, so when these things are taking place, there are some people who will be subjected to inconvenience, and one such person is whose house has been totally blocked. He cannot move in or move out of the house. This is only one example. So therefore, what I foresee is that this is going to antagonize the people. It will compel Hamas to take up arms more vigorously and intensely against the Israel as a matter of retribution or retaliation to this particular act. See, one small trigger will lead to another trigger, that trigger will become a cause, and it will lead to an effect, effect will become cause. It's a very vicious cycle which is very difficult to stop. Therefore, my recommendation as part of your question I'm answering is that this mindless conflict will come to an end provided the root cause of both the stakeholders are understood in totality, and we try to address them as has been conceived and considered many times in the past, not by forcibly shifting them to place A, B, C, including Somaliland, which is a contentious issue in the international news today. Back to Kriti.
All right, sure. Thanks once again, Sudhakarji, but once again I request you to stay on as there's some more information now coming in as far as Somaliland is concerned. The United Nations Security Council will be holding an emergency session on Monday to discuss Israel's recognition of Somaliland, a move condemned by several countries, including the European Union and 21 mostly Muslim nations. Israel's decision, announced by Prime Minister Netanyahu on Friday, was met with anger from Somalia and regional powers, accusing Israel of undermining Somalia's sovereignty. Meanwhile, the European Union stressed the importance of respecting Somalia's territorial integrity, while other nations such as Egypt, Turkey and Saudi Arabia warned that the recognition could destabilize the Horn of Africa and the Red Sea region. Israel remains the only European Union member to recognize Somaliland, which declared independence in 1991 but has been diplomatically isolated. The US also reaffirmed its stance, maintaining Somalia's territorial integrity. And I now request retired Major General Sudhakar Ji to join me in this discussion. Sudhakar Ji, once again, how do you think it's going to affect Israel. Now, not just Trump, but also the European Union has signaled its opposition to Somaliland and with interfering in the sovereignty of Somalia.
First and foremost thing is why Somaliland has been given recognition by Israel, because Israel is looking for suitable countries where the Palestinians can be forcibly shifted. That is his primary aim. That's why he's giving recognition to a country which is a breakaway country, which earlier used to be part of Somalia. And in 1991, the Somaliland, they claimed independence or autonomous status as a separate entity. Since then, there has been trouble between Somalia and Somaliland. That has to be understood in the backdrop. So if you have understood that, then the second point comes up is isolation of Netanyahu, Israel. Now, I'm glad that there is some sense prevailing in the world order today, and people realize the importance of shoulders of the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea, because if you look up the map, you see onto either side of this, the water body, the Gulf of Aden to the north, it leads you into Red Sea. We all know what is happening in Red Sea. It is being dominated by the Houthis of Yemen. If Somaliland is actually given recognition, it will give rise to insurgency, terrorism. It will become a hotbed. So both the shoulders of Red Sea are going to be dominated by violence and turbulence. So when that happens, the entire global cartage or the maritime trade which passes through, which is more than I think 20%, at places you'll find 30 odd percent, passes through the Red Sea through Suez Canal, is going to, earlier it was actually being interfered with one shoulder. Now both the shoulders will be affected. Both the warring parties, they will be affected. Number two, Somalia has been a very sensitive and a very difficult kind of a country with great difficulty. The world order, as also the African Union, is trying to bring in some semblance of order. But not that. It is known for piracy, it is known for terrorism, it is known for gang warfare, it is known for insurgency, it is known for drug trafficking, name a thing, illegal movement of weapons. So if this aspect is given a fuel, you are only adding fuel to the fire, and this will actually make the Horn of Africa very, very turbulent and unmanageable in times ahead if the current status quo is not allowed. In my opinion, I personally feel, rather than tinkering with the issue, you should let go, let the sleeping dog lie, because more you tinker with the sleeping dog, more it keep attacking you to bite you, and we have enough in the world order today to keep ourselves busy. Therefore, let's not open up a new front. Back to Vikrit.
All right, thank you very much, General Sudhakar. That's all the time that I have in this discussion. Viewers, moving ahead, let's also tell you that Blue Origin has appointed former United Launch Alliance CEO Tory Bruno as president of its newly established national security business, signaling the company's grant its share of lucrative military and intelligence launch contracts. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of the World Report. Thanks for staying tuned to NewsX World for all international news and updates.